All right, I think we are getting started here, folks. Looks like we're live. And we're back for another Amazon stream. So we're going to be live on the Amazon homepage in about 15 minutes or so. And so right now I'm just kind of getting some things set up in here. And yeah, we're getting there. Okay. So Youssef is here from Lebanon. We have Justin is here. DR is here. And the CloudGate test looks like it's running better on this one versus last night's machine. So 11,521. Yeah, something's not quite right with that Asus one we looked at, believe it or not, because this one is benchmarking pretty much the same as the other one did, which is surprising to me. All right, so this is the Lenovo IdeaPad 330S, and it has the Ryzen, and we'll go live on Amazon here in just a minute. The Ryzen R5-2500U, and we got a score of 11,521, and the frame rates, so 72.92 on the first test, 67.50 on the second test, and the third test came in at 18.30. And that puts this one almost at the same, test-wise, like the same as the one we looked at last night with a 3500U. So that was kind of surprising to me. So I'm not sure what's going on with that, but we'll see how it does on the games when we load those up. So let's see, who else is here? Daniel Bolds is here. William Wilkinson is here. Ecoms wants to know if this is a Ryzen 4000. It is not. There is a bunch of Ryzen 5s that are out there. This is the R5-2500U. And I'll ask a favor of those who've just heard me say that. As people come in and start asking what Ryzen chip it is, if you could, in the comments, just keep getting that out there. So this is the R5-2500U. So if you could let me know, or let other folks know as they pop in, that way I don't have to keep answering that question over and over again. Not that I don't mind people asking it. I'm sure there are people who are curious. But I'll do, actually, is maybe add this into the video title, and that should help also. So that's going to go into the title here. So that should update as people come in. So we should be good there. I'm going to start the Amazon stream now, and then we're going to kind of just poke around here until 8 o'clock Eastern time, because the homepage thing starts at 8. And so what I like to do is get the stream going a little early, make sure we don't have any issues, and of course we're simulcasting here and on Amazon. And if you want to see what the Amazon stream looks like, if you go into the video description and click, it'll take you right in there and you can see what's going on. No, it will not charge via USB-C. It's got its own power adapter here. I'll double check that, but I think it's just a data out on that. But we'll investigate that. Screen size on this one is 15 inches. So in many ways, this is exactly like the one we looked at the other night, just with a lower powered processor. The price on this one is less as well. Right now on Amazon, it's $375. The odd thing, though, is that I paid, the one I ordered had a 128 in the spec, but I got a 256 when it showed up. So you just, I don't know. I'm not sure what happened there, because that's not what was ordered, but I got that. So, and I'll be reminding people of specs when we start the main stream at 8. This has 8 gigs of RAM also, and it should be in a dual channel configuration as well. There is a webcam right up here at the top. It's tiny. Let's see. Recharge wants more 13 and 14 inch laptops. Yeah, I think those are the sweet spot. 15s are, I have a MacBook Pro 15, which I don't mind because it's a powerful computer, but I like the smaller ones. My favorite laptop is my little 12-inch MacBook that I've got here on the desk, which they don't make anymore, of course. William Wilkinson had asked about the webcam. Patricia Patricia Diaz, is a 4-core laptop a thing on the laptops without trying to overcharge you? I mean, you know, we talked a little bit about the cores last night. I think the cores depends on what you're doing and the software you're running. So if you're running software that is taking advantage of multi-threaded activities, then more cores are good. This one, I think, is a dual core versus the quad core we had last night. But it's benchmarking actually the same as the one we looked at last night, which is odd. So I think there's either something wrong with the test or the one we looked at is acting up there. Let's see what else I can look at on here. I'm just trying to see how many cores. Oh, this is quad core. Huh. Okay, I take that back. It is a quad core. So it's quad core, but it's got 8 total threads. And this one costs less than the one we looked at last night. I'll tell you what, this one might be the better of the two. If you know, we'll see how the games run. But the benchmark so far is indicating that this one is running faster with what should be a lower powered CPU. Very odd. I'm going to have to go back and... So this is one of those things when we're getting our reviews ready. When things don't look right, then we got to figure out why that is. And that's going to be something we have to explore a little bit tomorrow and Monday, which is like, why are we seeing that? So we'll see what happens there. All right. Tick Gravy wants to know if it can play Minecraft. It sure can. And we're going to do more than Minecraft tonight. We're going to throw some harder things at this one this evening to see how it does. And we're just waiting for the 8 o'clock hour here in the US to roll around. And when it does, we're going to get started. So what we'll do tonight is we're going to probably run 3 or 4 games on here. And then after that, we're going to run Linux and make sure it can run Linux and see what's compatible, see what hardware gets detected. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take it apart and see what's inside. So we'll see how all that works on there. Let's see here. I'm just going to go and check and see. I think Jake had downloaded Fortnite on here because we neglected to run that last night. But we're going to launch it here. I think he might have logged in as his username. We'll see. I can always just log in with mine. Hikuru-san is here. Good evening. Thanks for stopping by. Who else is here? We got David Yablonsky is here. Welcome. DR says, do you think Intel laptops are going to reduce their prices or put better processors? So what we have seen so far on the higher end Intel chips is that they now have onboard graphics that are competitive with the AMD onboard graphics. That was a big change. But, and there's always a but, you have to get the i7 to get that. So that's not going to be on a sub $500 laptop like this one is. So this guy is $375. You can't beat it. So that is a good deal. You can. So William Wilkinson wants to know about Plex. So you can run the Plex client, but it's not good as a server because it doesn't have the Intel QuickSync. So that's one thing that won't work there. Let's see. William's got some game things. So what we're going to do is we're going to run like GTA 5, the new version of Doom, a couple games like that on here. And it looks like we're signed in as Jake, so hopefully he's not signed in somewhere else. I'm just going to get this started up just so we can have it ready. And just want to go into settings here real quick. Oops. Yeah, so we're just getting some things set up. So about 8 or 9 minutes, we'll get the whole thing going. And we'll start working our way through some of this stuff. So it'll happen, if you want to see something cool, at 8, if you go on Amazon.com here in the US, you should see me on the front page, like below the fold, if you scroll down a little bit, which is pretty cool. I've yet to have any of my friends tell me that they've seen me, so I guess they're not browsing Amazon at night. Okay. So let's go 100% on this, and we'll just turn everything down to low. Okay. Fortnite's very complicated in its settings because they have like they'll run at 1080p, but then render the graphics at a lower resolution. So you got to make sure all that stuff is configured properly. All right. Oh, I'm not going to do that. Let's DirectX 11. All right. So we will apply that. And good. So the other thing I want to do is just go back out to the main menu here and get another thing ready. So we got that going, so that's good. I think I want to get Fraps loaded up also. So I'm going to do that as well. And the wife and kids just got home, so you might be hearing some of my kids screaming up there in the garage. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure I got Fraps here loaded properly. I think that's all we need to have going. Fraps is a pretty cool little app. So MNW wants to know what we did last night. Actually, last night we looked at another one of these lower cost laptops. We looked at an Asus. And tonight we are looking at a Lenovo. And the difference is about $100. This one costs less. And this one also should be performing not as fast as the other one, but it will, so far it looks like it benchmarks faster. So we'll see, see exactly what's going on here. What's funny with these is that sometimes there's thermal things that they do, and there's different settings that they do on the chip that impact it. Now, if you want to see last night's laptop, if you go to Lon.TV/livestreams, you'll see I archive every live stream I do over there. So you got hours of content if you want to just have it run. But you can watch that from last night. I don't know on the battery size on this one. I haven't done my full spec sheet thing on this, but let me check what we got there. By the way, I'm drinking Pellegrino this evening. There's nothing nefarious in this bottle. It's all I drink, actually, is that and water. So maybe some orange juice from time to time, but that's about it. Battery, let's see. I don't think they've got the battery listed here. Yeah, the one thing about these AMD devices is that they don't do as well on the battery. And I'm trying to see if there's a spec sheet somewhere where we can get the exact battery size. But we will take it apart in a little bit, so we might see that labeled on the battery itself. So stay tuned. All right, we got about 5 minutes until we hit the air on the main screen of Amazon. And then tonight we're also, like I said, going to take it apart. So I've got a few other things that will be part of that. My tool set, my wristband, and I've got my magnetic thing here. And I think I have my trusty 8-bit-do controller here. So we got all that stuff. This I bought with my own funds. This will be one that we resell, so be on the lookout for that when we're done with it. So we've got a lot of fun stuff to do with this laptop tonight. So the plan tonight will be, we'll play some games on this first. We'll get Linux going on it. Then we're going to take it apart, and then we're done. So that is the game plan, everybody. And then I'm going to be back again tomorrow night. And I haven't yet figured out what I'm going to do. So I'll need some suggestions for that. All right. RAM on this one, Hikuru-san, is 8 gigabytes, dual channel. Ches says Fraps is really old. It is, but it works. So if it's good, it's good. So confirmed SK says that these initially were going to have a 256. Oh, I see. So maybe the specs were wrong. Well, I guess if you're buying one and it has 256 versus 128, not a bad deal. So Thick Gravy, we're going to run Ubuntu on it. We usually just do the live boot on that. Yeah, I might do Mister tomorrow night. I have some Mister stuff to do. The problem is, and because these streams go on Amazon, there's not a lot of stuff you can buy on Amazon for the Mister beyond the DE10 Nano, but maybe that's enough. Maybe we'll talk about what you can do with that board. Keith McDermott is here. Welcome. Laurent is calling in from Belgium, 1:56 a.m. It is late there, so thank you for tuning in. And then Dennis is over on the Amazon chat. Says he's not a big fan of Windows, but finds himself in need of a decent, hopefully cheap Windows laptop, and these AMD ones are really changing the low-end market. They are significantly, and there are so many more than there were just a few months ago. So we looked at an Acer that was, I think it's like $315, which I think that Acer is the same chip as this one. And that one is really popular on my channel. And then that was it for a while. And then like the last 2 weeks, all these other ones have started showing up. So I think they're just, I want to say they're getting flooded with these, but I think that AMD is about to rev this chipset. So I think we might be seeing kind of an inventory clear out of parts, which means these manufacturers are just gobbling these things up and making computers as fast as they can. This is an NVMe, I believe, inside of it. We'll find out when we take it apart. So I think we'll see when we do take it apart. I'm pretty sure it's an NVMe. Let me check and see. There's not much in the way of... Okay, so here's what I'm seeing on the Amazon question sheet here, is that it looks like the hard drive, at least from what they're saying on the response, is that the hard drive is a SATA drive and there's an open NVMe slot. But we will find out when we take it apart, and we'll figure out for sure exactly what's in there. So that will be one of the mysteries that we will solve. Questions from Patricia on fan noise. These all have fans. You know, you can't avoid it, especially if you want performance. The one last night was not very loud. This one I haven't done much with yet. We'll kind of play it out as we go. But so far, this one seems pretty quiet also. But the big question is, how well does it cool itself? Because if it's not cooling itself well, you're going to have a performance impact from that. And I suspect some of the benchmarking issues we saw last night might be a result of that. So we'll keep an eye on it. William asks, can you put 2 different drives in the laptop? You likely can. We'll find out when we take it apart. Now, last night's laptop had a spot for a SATA SSD, but it needs a cable to connect to it, and that cable wasn't in the box that they sent me. Now, last night's laptop was on loan from Asus, so it's possible that they were, maybe they just didn't include that cable, but it might be included at retail. So I'm going to have to ask them that question ahead of the review. All right, so it is officially 8 p.m. here in the United States on the East Coast, which means we are now live on the Amazon homepage. So welcome everybody to tonight's stream. We're going to be doing one more of these tomorrow night, and I'm not sure on the topic just yet, but it will be something tech related because that's what I do. And this evening, what we're going to be looking at, like we looked at last night, is another low-cost Ryzen powered laptop. There are a bunch of these coming out from a number of major manufacturers. Actually, they're out now. And these are very affordable, well under $500. This one at the moment is $375, and sometimes you can find these for less than that. And they deliver graphics performance that is good, much better than you might expect out of something really low cost. And that means you might be able to do some video editing on these things. You could, some light kind of video editing. You could do gaming, nothing spectacular, but if you set your settings correctly, you'll get better gaming performance than you might with a more expensive Intel device. So there's some real benefit to these, and that's what we're going to be taking a look at tonight. Now, this laptop I paid for with my own funds, and all of the opinions you're about to hear are my own, and no one has reviewed or approved what we are live streaming at the moment because we are doing it in real time. There's no way they could, right? So this one is going to be fun to look at. So right out of the gate, this is the IdeaPad 330S. It's a 15-inch 1080p display, IPS. It's got good viewing angles on it. It looks nice and sharp, and it feels pretty good. It's plastic for the most part, but there is a metal cover here on the case. So this part is metal on the top, at least it feels that way, and the rest of it's plastic. You do get a bunch of ports on this one. You've got full-size HDMI, a USB 3 port, a USB Type-C port. When we do the full review on my YouTube channel, we will, of course, see what that port can do. We have a headphone jack there, and then on the other side, we have a Kensington lock, a USB 3 port, and a card slot for SD cards. And I can't find, let's see if I have it here. I think I misplaced my little SD card that I test with. What's interesting is the port layout here looks almost identical to the one we looked at from Asus last night. Now inside, this has a Ryzen processor, which is again one of those AMD chips. This is an R5-2500U. It has 8 gigabytes of RAM, and I believe that RAM is configured in dual channel configuration. And we're going to touch on the RAM a little bit later when we take it apart, because when you buy one of these and you want graphics performance, you need it configured as dual channel RAM. And there, unfortunately, are not many ways to find out if it has that, because it's often not a marketing thing that they do. But it's definitely something you need to look for to get the best performance out of it. Now, we looked at one of these from Acer recently, and that one only came with 4 gigabytes of RAM, and you had to buy another RAM module, take apart the computer, and put that in to get the performance. This one and the one we looked at last night have the RAM configured properly, so you can just buy it and be on your way. So that is what we're looking at there. William Wilkinson wants to know if that other port could be a Lightning port. Well, it wouldn't have a Lightning port. That's an Apple thing. But if you're thinking about Thunderbolt, it is not Thunderbolt. It doesn't support that. So it is strictly USB-C, because Thunderbolt is an Intel thing, at least for a little bit longer. All right, so the game plan for tonight is we are going to run a couple of games on this just to get some footage for the upcoming review. And then we're going to live boot Ubuntu Linux on it to see if it can detect all the hardware properly. Once we do that, we're going to turn it off. I'm going to flip it over, and we're going to take it apart with my tool set here and see what's inside. And then we're going to call it a night. So that's going to be fun, and I'll be back again tomorrow. So with some other topic, and I got to figure out what that topic's going to be. So why don't we get started? And I think what we'll do first is we'll load up the couple of the games. We're going to start with Grand Theft Auto 5, because that's one we always like to test on these computers. It's an older game, but even as an older game, it's still really pushing hardware. And it's something that if you bought like an Intel i3 or i5 based laptop, you're not going to get such great performance at 1080p. Here you do. So that is what we're going to explore first here. And if you're wondering what game controller I have connected, this is the 8BitDo SN30 Pro Plus. In full disclosure, this came in free of charge from 8BitDo a little while ago. And if you're watching on the Amazon stream, it'll show up in your product carousel there. Great controller. This has actually turned into my favorite game controller because it works with the Switch and it also works with the PC. And it's really comfortable. So I like the D-pad on it. It's basically like a mix of a PlayStation controller and a Super Nintendo controller in one device. It's all customizable and configurable. So it's pretty cool. So we will be taking a look at that. So first thing we're going to do though is get Steam loaded up here, and we're going to get GTA 5 going. If you have questions, you can ask away, and we will try to answer those. So if you're watching on Amazon, this is simulcasting on YouTube, so I'm getting questions from YouTube and from Amazon, so I'll be jumping back and forth as we go here. Eric Contreras wants to know what Wi-Fi card is inside. We will find out when we take it apart. I am not sure which one they chose for this one. And sometimes I've found that they tend to change the Wi-Fi hardware as the product ages there. So that's something to just be advised about. Last night was the Asus VivoBook was the one we looked at last night. And you can find that archived on my YouTube channel and on Amazon. All right, so we're going to have to wait for all this stuff to install here. I forgot to get that going a little bit earlier. So folks were asking about 4K playback. Generally, these will do okay with that, but it's not a 4K display. So, I mean, I guess if you plugged it into a 4K monitor or something, you'd get that. And we'll test that a little bit later. I just don't have my 4K display out at the moment. But I found, at least with the other ones that we've looked at, that it's able to hardware decode that stuff. And we just have to wait for all this stuff to install. All right, maybe we'll answer Eric's question while we're waiting for that stuff to go. We can go into the hardware manager and see what it has for Wi-Fi. All right, so we'll go over to our device manager. Oops, wrong button there. And we'll take a look at network adapters. So it says it's a Qualcomm Atheros QCA9377. So that's what it's got in there. And we'll take a look when we take it apart as well and see what we end up with here. All right, so now we got to install the Rockstar. We went through the same exact thing last night. We have to install this launcher now to get the thing going. And Mackenzie Alexander says, thank you for responding. Well, welcome aboard to the Amazon chat. And we're going to let this load up here. And if you're wondering what order I've got, this is not a paid placement, but it should be, because I'm always drinking my Pellegrino on air. All right, so we are getting there. It used to be a lot quicker to get this game going, but I guess everybody who's like a publisher now wants to get into the game launcher and game store business, so we'll see what goes on there. If you want to find pricing on this one, you can head over to the link in the video description. It is just under $400 right now, $375 for this one. And what's interesting is that when I bought this, and it still says it on the Amazon listing, it says 128 gigabytes of storage, but when it showed up, it had 256. So I don't know what you're going to get if you do that, but just be aware of that. All right, we gotta wait for this to do its thing here. Earl wants to know if you can get it with 16 gigs of RAM. I don't believe they offer one, at least not on Amazon. I can look. Let's take a look. So this is the IdeaPad 330S. Now, what we found last night was that from the RAM perspective, they had one of the RAM chips was socketed in a thing. You can put it in, but the other one, I can show you what it looks like. This is the internals of last night's laptop. So what do we got in here, everybody?
But the other one,
hang on, let me just put this on screen here so you can see what it looks like. So it had one socketed RAM chip there, but the other one was soldered onto the main board. So you wouldn't be able to effectively add more RAM because you'd be out of, your two modules wouldn't match. So we'll see if this one is any different. And it's kind of a hit or miss thing. And what's funny is that you would think to save costs they would solder everything on, but I found in my experience the lower cost laptops tend to be the most upgradable, at least from the storage and memory perspective. Because even the more expensive one now, like we're seeing with Apple and a number of other manufacturers, Dell's starting to do this too, where you don't have even upgradable storage. So you're like, you got the whole thing just kind of soldered on there. It's crazy. All right. What's interesting is that it's only showing a megabyte of video memory. I'm not sure if we can increase that, because last night we had more available to us. All right, so for some reason it is not getting us going here. Let's see. So I usually run this at the lowest settings just to get it all. All right, video memory exceeded. The selected graphics require more video memory is available in your current. Okay, so we have some troubleshooting to do here, folks, because we need to get more video memory out of this. We can't even get right now Grand Theft Auto to run at 1080p. So what I need to do is jump into the BIOS settings real quick, see if there's a way that we can increase that, because that's going to really put a damper on on the gaming tests here. So let's take a look and see if we can bump that up. Usually in the BIOS they give you the ability to do that, but it's not a good sign that if that you're kind of dealing with this limitation right out of the gate. And then we got to figure out what key is the. William Wilkins says, "Couldn't you desolder the RAM?" I guess, but it's not something a consumer's going to do, and you're getting into so much aggravation at that point. You may as well just spend a little bit more if you want that. So I'm hitting delete. That wasn't it. Yeah, so it does use system RAM, but a lot of times what's made available is more limited. So right now the system is only seeing a gigabyte. I think I said megabyte, but a gigabyte of RAM. So we need to make a little bit more available here. Let's see if I can get into the BIOS. There we go. All right, let's see if there's any options here. It is very, very limited here from the standpoint of shared video memory. I'll tell you, there's always something that throws us off every time we look at one of these things on a live stream. So that is going to be tonight's challenge, is how do we get more video memory available? Because this is going to be really limiting. I think we only need an extra 500 megabytes. It's not even all that much. All right, so yeah, right now we've got no ability in the BIOS to set the shared RAM amounts. All right, so what I would welcome at the moment from the chat window, or the chat room, is if there is a way that we can, in software, maybe through the drivers, we'll check the drivers next, if there's a way that we can increase the amount of available video memory. Other games might run, so we'll try a few other ones, but that's not looking good here out of the gate. All right. Okay, we're getting there. CH Gadget says the channel is almost 250,000. Yes, we are definitely growing, so I'm really excited to see us get to that point. What's interesting, though, is that the videos that I do for the subscribers, I'm not seeing a lot of growth in viewership of like the weekly wrap-up and stuff. We're going to have a talk about that on the wrap-up coming up this week, because I'm putting a lot of effort in and we're just not getting the viewership to really warrant all that time investment. I wouldn't get rid of it per se, but we have to really overhaul it, because it's just not, you know, I'm spending a lot of time on it and it's just not delivering what I hope it can deliver. All right, so we're going to go into the AMD settings here, and let's take a look and see if there's some kind of preference we can set for shared memory. And there was some questions about, maybe we do that tomorrow night, questions about what you can do as far as like running it as a streaming server. Maybe we can put OBS on it and see how it does. I think it'll do okay for this kind of stuff. So we'll play around with that and see, because we're not going to have time for that tonight. Okay, here we go, memory size. So I have it here, but it's not giving me the option to change anything. And you know, I'm curious now, because let me go find last night's laptop, because I'm just curious as to what the amount of memory it had available, because it was able to run GTA 5 no problem. So what we would have to do here is run it at 720p, and it won't look as good. But I can't understand why they would limit, unless the 2500U is limited but in its video memory. I don't know. All right, so here's last night's laptop here. And if we jump into the Radeon settings, let's have a look. So in here I thought, yeah, we know we'll run a few games, we'll be able to get through this pretty quick, we'll be faster than we were last night, and look at that, we've already hit a roadblock right out of the gate. All right, let's go just jump in and see what we've got here. Now the other thing that I noticed is that I was able to jump on the AMD website for the 3500U drivers last night. And man, the software is totally different here too. And the 2500U does not have drivers available on the website. Yeah, so again, shared RAM, this one has 2 gigs available. This one has 1. So it must be some kind of hard-coded thing. I don't know if it's tied to the specific driver, or if it's tied to the the actual chipset. So what I want to do now is just do a quick search to see if we can get the answer to that question. Somebody suggested it might be in the registry, but we'll see. Yeah, we checked the BIOS ROM, and there's no BIOS option for shared memory. So what we're going to do now is do a quick search here. So R5-2500U, video memory. Let's see if there's a way that we can increase that. And with that, sure enough, somebody's got the same problem we have. Let's see. Yeah, there's no way to change it in the BIOS. I'm not seeing anything in the software. I tried to download a newer driver version, and the 2500U driver is not even on their website. All right, so apparently some folks with the HP version of this, and apparently this chipset's been around for a while. And it looks like these guys are probably doing what HP's doing, which is they're locking users out of changing the VRAM option in the BIOS. So it looks like it might be hard-coded to 1 gigabyte. All right, well, you know what we're going to do is we're just going to have to note that and as we're putting this review together, and it might limit us a bit. All right, so we'll jump back, and I just want to check one thing here, see if there's a place that we can even get the driver software updated. So it did have the Radeon software installed on it, but there's no option to go out and try to find an update either. And again, last night's laptop had, we could just go to their website and get it going. So this looks to be a bit problematic here. Let me see what you all are saying in the chat room. All right, so we've got some folks here with the HKey local machine hardware device map video. All right, let's see if we can change it there. So let me go load up the registry editor. And let's poke around in there and see if we can find what we're looking for. So HKey local machine hardware. And I have a feeling this is going to be tied directly into the BIOS and not something we can adjust in. Yeah, so I'm not seeing anything in here. I see. Let's see, I'm just going to. Yeah, we're not getting anything that's useful here. Yep, that's going to be it. So, all right, well, let's keep plugging away here and see if we can figure it out. What I am going to do real quick, though, is just go back to the AMD website. And maybe I just missed something the first time. So let's go back over to drivers and support. And so what I did is I went over to processors, AMD Ryzen processors, AMD Ryzen 5. Oh, okay, this might be where I screwed up. This might be, because these are all desktop processors, so maybe we go to the embedded version. Let's see. No, that's V and R. AMD Ryzen processors. Yeah, there's like no option. Processors with graphics. Ah, here we go. I was in the wrong spot. So Ryzen 5 mobile processor. There we go. Ryzen 5 2500. Okay, so let's submit this. That's where I messed up. So let's download this. I was excited because this thing had the software installed already. So last night, the other laptop didn't. So, well, you know what's funny? So on McKessie and on the Amazon chat says, right now it looks like the Asus is slightly ahead. It is. However, what's funny was we just ran the 3D Mark CloudGate benchmark, and this one did better, or it actually did about the same, which we wouldn't expect out of what should be a slower processor. So we'll see once we install the updated software if that changes it. But it appears to me that they've locked it. So if it is a BIOS setting, there's no setting that we can get access to without some crazy BIOS update. So, and it's kind of crazy that they would limit that because, you know, they are putting 8 gigs of RAM in here. My understanding of the shared video RAM is that it's kind of flexible. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe it does lock away that 2 gigs, which would dramatically reduce the memory footprint for other applications. But Eric Hulzer wanted to know if I watched the show. I'm not sure what show I wanted to watch yesterday. I ended up watching the Picard show again because my wife was awake still, and I made her watch it until she protested. She actually liked it. She liked the Picard show. Yes, Roman. I think what it would be locked on Lenovo's side on the BIOS, because I've seen some of these kind of more open BIOS things where you could go in and change the amount of shared video RAM. And from what I just read from an HP forum, HP made the same decision with one of their computers running with this same chipset. And their decision was to lock it out at 1 gig and not allow the user to update it. All right, Eric has another thread for us here, so I'm going to take a look at that real quick. Just got to add my periods to the thing. It's a shame that YouTube doesn't always let you put URLs in there. Okay, dedicated video memory. Okay, so there's a whole big discussion on this. Let's see if there's any resolution to this here. I would say that you're kind of stuck unless they let you do it. Yeah. Okay, let's go and just get these drivers installed. And let's see if it happens. Maybe it'll give us a little bit more flexibility after it installs. I doubt it, but we shall see. And we'll come back to that. So, and this is something that's good for consumers to know. So I would say the reason they probably did this, let's assume for a minute that they are restricting this in BIOS and not allowing the user to update it. From what we read again on HP's forum with their laptop, they made the decision to lock it in at 1 gig and no more, and they don't let the user do anything further beyond that. My guess would be is that when they looked at the target market for this laptop, it's somebody that's looking to spend $375. Is that extra gigabyte of RAM going to be used for video from that kind of user, or is it going to be used for system usage? And I think they probably opted for the system thing. The weight on these, I haven't done the weight. It feels about 3.5 pounds, give or take. So they're going to be a little heavier than your normal, or than your more expensive laptops. The rule of thumb is, you can get, let's say the rule of thumb for a budget laptop is you have to choose between, you have to choose 2 of these three things: performance, battery life, and weight. And you can choose 2 of the 3, generally. So you can get a really high performance, actually even maybe not, maybe you just get 1. So you can get like a really high performance laptop for not that much money, but it's going to be heavy and very lousy battery life. In these lower cost devices, what I found is that the Ryzen chips actually do pretty nicely. So you get a little bit more out of these, except in this particular instance because we've got a video RAM limitation. All right, so let's install this. But this is good to know because you know what? This could be something that, if someone's out there who knows a little bit about Ryzen processors, they might be excited to look at this one and discover, oh my gosh, there's a pretty big limitation here. And I'm trying to figure out, like, why is this one $100 less than the other one? This might be one of the reasons. The other one also has a fingerprint reader and a backlit keyboard, which this one lacks. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to even do this review too, because maybe what we do is maybe like a shootout between 3 of them, because I can get the HP in next week and just kind of run them all together. That might be kind of fun. I don't usually do that. I usually go product by product, but we'll see. Yeah, Eric suggested we check out Lenovo's website to see if there's any BIOS updates, so maybe we'll do that too. And actually, I can load up the Lenovo Vantage software. And we gotta wait for the video drivers to go here. I'm probably asking for trouble by installing both things at the same time here. All right, hang on, let's wait for, we have to do a restart here, but I want to get the Lenovo Vantage thing going before I do that, so. All right, let's see what we get here. All right, so Lenovo Vantage. All right, let's just, I'm sure I just agreed to something I didn't want to agree to. I do not want to let Lenovo Vantage access my microphone. They have no reason to do that. You don't need to look at my camera either. I'm guessing they must have some tech support thing you can dial into. All right, so let's go over to System Update and let us check for updates. An up-to-date system is a healthy system. Aha, look at this, folks. There is a BIOS update, but it was successfully installed on January 24th. So it looks like Jake must have installed that when he got, see, this is how good he is. He does all this stuff, and I don't have to worry about it. But it looks like it was installed on the 24th, which was yesterday when he was here getting this set up. So the answer is there is a BIOS update. It's been installed and no change. So that gets that question out of the way. Let's restart with the new driver and see if that gets us anything. And as that goes on, Mackenzie Alexander in the Amazon chat says, given these cheaper Ryzen models, you still see a future for Chromebooks? Yes, as a matter of fact, I do, because we just covered this story on the weekly wrap-up about the fact that there's a bunch of Ryzen-based Chromebooks coming out, and somebody from Google said they were working with Valve, who makes the Steam game store. They're working with Valve on a version of Steam that can run on Chromebooks. Now, you could install it now already on a Chromebook, but it's a little bit of a lift. So this would be kind of something you would just be able to install easier, and it would make use of the container system that the Chromebooks run with. So you could run Steam on a Chromebook. That might be a fun. That could be a fun live stream too. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow night, because I have my Pixelbook Go. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow night. That might be kind of fun, and see what games are out there for it. You're limited on the Pixelbook Go because it's got an Intel processor, so the graphics aren't that great. But I've got a full, big library of Steam games. Okay, so we're going to restart one more time, and hopefully we'll see how it goes together here. So yeah, there's going to be a bunch of Ryzen Chromebooks coming out, and we will certainly try to get those in. And what I'm seeing also is a lot of consumer interest in Chromebooks. So I've done some videos on what Chrome OS is. In fact, I just did an updated one, and those have been doing really well. And what's funny was that when I first did my Chromebook 101 video, it got very little traffic. But 3 years later, it just became one of my top videos because consumers are interested in this kind of stuff. So those are the choices you have. I think still, like, if you're looking for a computer that runs whatever you want, you really should probably go with an Intel-based machine, and save all the issues I'm having at the moment getting games to run on this one. These Ryzen laptops are a tremendously good value from a performance to price perspective. And as you'll see, once we do get this thing going, it will do things graphically that will surprise you and delight you, I suppose. All right, so let's put a gaming profile on this software. I don't know what that's going to do for us, but all right, so now we've got the latest and greatest from a software perspective on here. And let's see, Upgrade Advisor. It's telling me to buy a new computer. Is that what it's seriously saying to me? It is. Isn't that funny? Check this out. It's telling me like, hey, you got this computer, you can't run this, this, or this, so maybe you should buy something new. That's hysterical. You gotta love that. That's why their stock is so high. They're just like, they're telling everybody their computers are too slow. Yeah, so the VRAM is still locked in at a gigabyte, folks. So that is going to be a bit of a limiting factor here. All right, so what we're going to do is we're still going to run GTA 5, but we're going to run it at 720p so we can work within that limitation. And this will require some explanation because when we run the game, it's going to run faster than the one from last night did, but that's because we're going to be at a lower resolution. So, you know, you got to make sure these things are clear. And Roman says you can do Steam. Well, that's a good, you know, that's another good point, Roman. I didn't even think about the Steam in-home streaming. Oh, we got to totally do that. Maybe that's what we'll do tomorrow night because I have that Pixelbook Go right over here. And that might be a fun little experiment. And the challenge is getting Steam installed initially on the Chromebook. After that, you're in good shape. All right, so I've got to do one other thing here. Oh, I just screwed up something here. I forgot to load my frame counter there, so let's go and do that real quick. All right. I upset the game, and it crashed on me. All right, let's see if we can, third time's the charm, everybody. Let's get this going real quick here. All right, we've got some suggestions. So, Durian was talking about the Acer Aspire 3. So I looked at the Acer Aspire 5 recently, and you may want to check my review on that. Now, whenever you see one of these AMD laptops with a 4 gigabyte configuration, you are going to want to make sure it's upgradable because you need to get 4 gigs on there. Dennis in the Amazon chat was wondering if there was a dead pixel on the screen. No, there was a piece of dust on there that I just just wiped away. All right. And Paul Brownlee says, no Steam on DeX, it installs the Steam mobile client only. Yes, so the Steam requires an Intel processor or an Intel compatible processor like the AMD Ryzen's or a direct Intel chip. Because I don't believe there is an ARM-based Steam for mobile yet. All right, so let's get through this. We'll go drop it to 720p, and we'll get going. I do in-home streaming on my NVIDIA Shields. I like to play that No Man's Sky game, which is like one of those chill out, relax games, so I stream that to some of the TVs in the house. And then I have upstairs, I did a video on this also, I have one of those fiber optic HDMI cables, so I can run the video all the way from my desktop computer on the other side of the room to the TV. It's pretty fun. All right, so, oh, you know what I didn't have on? I'm going to turn the ignore limits on, and that might get us to the 1080p. We'll see if it's problematic. Okay, because we're just like, it's recommending 1,066 megabytes, and we've got 1,024. So let's see if we can turn off anything else here to make it cooperate. Oops, an ultra normal. I don't think there's anything else I can turn off to get us to that point. All right, let's apply the changes here and see what happens. Okay, so it kept it. Now, of course, we're still in the interface here. So I probably wasted a lot of people's time, but this is good to know. So let's see what happens. And Eric makes a good point, too, that his phone is faster than his laptop in some cases. And that is very true. And actually, you know, I think one of my predictions from last year, which never happened, but I think it's going to happen, is that I predict that probably this year or next year, Apple's going to release a Mac powered by one of its mobile chips. and it's going to be like super fast for Final Cut Pro and like very specific kinds of graphical tasks. And I think that's happening. So, all right, here we go, folks. So the good news is that the game is running. It's possible, given this video memory issue, that we could see a crash occur. Now, what we've been doing to test the game out here is I take out my my rocket launcher here, and I just kind of blow myself up. So because that gets everything reset to like a daylight thing, and we can walk around in the city. So we're going to do that real quick. Monty here is running Moonlight on Samsung, and Moonlight, by the way, is a great application if you have an NVIDIA Shield or an NVIDIA card in your computer. Sorry. Because I use Moonlight on my phone. In fact, I have a clip for the 8BitDo controller for my Android phone. I have a Pixel 3a, and it's awesome on this controller. You get like a little PC on a controller that you can use anywhere in the house. It's good stuff. All right, so here we are. And you know something? Well, you know, it's about where we were last night. So we're seeing here, I'm going to start recording some footage. We're getting about 30 to 40 frames per second here in GTA 5. I'm going to caution people during the review, though, that it's likely you might crash it because we are hitting the limits of the memory. So it's possible. Let me see. Oops, let's not run over anybody. Yeah, you go ahead and get out of the car. There we go. It's a family show. We don't want to do anything too dramatic here. So I'll have to check the footage from last night, but I think this is doing a little bit better. We're getting about 35 frames per second. Now, last night we were seeing that it was getting in the low 30s. This is kind of in the high 30s. So I haven't seen it dip into the 20s yet. All right, there. Yeah, so now it's getting a little bit lower. Yeah, it's back up to 30. Ooh. Yeah, this is better than last night's laptop, folks. Not by much, but it's... I'll play back the footage in a minute just to validate this. But we're pretty steady here, mid to high 30s. So not bad. And some folks are speculating that it could be the fact that, yeah, I'm not a very good driver in this game. I'm trying not to hit any people, though. So not bad here, folks. Yeah, we're doing okay. And the fan noise isn't bad either. I mean, it's on, obviously, but it's not sounding terrible. But again, I think you're going to have a little bit of risk here with the fact that we are pushing the shared video memory to the limit. And I don't know what that means in the long run here. Hey, let's take this bus. Should we do that? Let's do that. Let's go jump in this bus real quick. I'm going to jump in over here. There we go. And he's going to let the bus driver go there. And look at this. We got a bus now. Look at that. So yeah, this is running pretty nice. Okay, so we are going to just mark the clip here, and I'm going to go back now and look at last night's recording, and just to see how we did. Yeah, I found too with Moonlight, having, let's see, 2006, I'm going to call this 3000. This is Lenovo IdeaPad 330S GTA 5. I forgot what I was saying. Sorry, folks, I just got distracted. Let me go back over to the GTA 5 from last night. So let me pull this up. This was the recording from last night's computer, and I'm just curious to see how we did. Oh, great, because I didn't have the fraps up, so let me just play back the audio and see what I said. Here we go. 30 to 35 territory. And we'll borrow this guy's car here real quick. And what I'll do is just kind of run around to some other parts of the cityscape here and see how we do. So yeah, we're doing about 3028. This is 1080p at the lowest settings. So yeah, it's performing about where we've seen some of the other Ryzens perform. You know, if we turned up the settings, you know, even a little bit, we would be, you know, obviously seeing a reduction in frame rate. But it's able to maintain 30. So, all right, so there you go. So this is doing better on GTA 5 than what we saw last night with the Asus. And Makessi's asking in Amazon chat if this is resolution different. Nope, this was apples to apples here. So, and this is kind of, by the way, this is also indicative of what we saw out of the benchmark I ran before we started the stream, in that this one was performing better than the one last night, than the Asus. So something about the Asus is dialed down a bit, because this is running the 2500U, which is not the 3500U that's in the other one. I'd love for someone to let me know what the differences are between them, because we should see a more dramatic performance difference here. And this one should not be faster than the one we looked at last night. Yeah, so that's interesting. All right, so let me go to the game here. We're going to quit this game and load up another one. Maybe we'll do Fortnite next. And I'm really thinking about doing this as like a shootout kind of thing for the video, especially if I get the HP one in, because I'm trying to figure out like what's the best way to present this. So we'll see. But again, I think you've got a risk here because of the video memory being so limited that, you know, you might hit a point where you overwhelm stuff and you're gone, you know. So that's something to think about. All right, let me load up Fortnite real quick. And I've already set that to the lowest settings. And I'll just verify that before we jump in there. Oops, let me go find it over here real quick. And these things take forever to load. You gotta go all this anti-cheat stuff. The one thing I'm noticing is with the trackpad, I'm gonna put a note in my docs about this. High 30s versus so one thing I am noticing on the trackpad is that it's like really sensitive for those taps. So like just a real simple tap there. See that? It just like creates a Fortnite has been known to crash Direct3D 11. Please use Microsoft Expression Encoder for capturing. I'm not intending to capture anything. Okay, so we'll let Fortnite run here, and we'll get that booted up. So I will say, though, that this is surprising me, because I was expecting this one to be the lower performing of the two. And on a benchmark and on a game, this one turns out to be the better performing of them. All right, so let that load up real quick here, and I'm just gonna get the camera zoomed in a little better so we can have some better B-roll footage for the main review. So there was one summer, I think last June, I was like addicted to Fortnite on my Switch. And then I just realized, as I do with every game, that I am never going to be that good at these things. So I gave up. But we'll see. Roman said, is there a control panel setting? Yeah, so I should be able to disable the tap to click on there. So that's something I'll do. I just like to note that because a lot of people aren't aware that they can get rid of that. So we'll see where it goes. Sparky on the Amazon chat asks if I would consider this a worthy supplemental computer with a dedicated tower as a main. I don't know. I mean, I would say that if you are a serious gamer, you know, this is something that is not. Here's what I would say. This is like, hey, I could do this for $300 or 300 and change versus this is going to be a great supplement. You know what I mean? Like I would say if you were looking for something supplemental and portable, You might want to look at maybe something used with a discrete GPU that might deliver better performance. We're kind of pushing this a bit. But I think if all you have is money for this and no other computer, these can do really well. Eric, I don't know if it's using precision drivers. I just put in whatever AMD had me download. Roman wants to know, is there a control panel setting in Windows? Oh, I'm sorry, that was a question from before. All right, so Fortnite here. This is 1080p, and I think low settings, and we're only getting about 20 frames per second or so. So I think we need to do a little bit of an adjustment here. So let me go into the graphics setting and make some changes to this thing here. So let's go to settings. And all right, so we got it at 1080p, and I have everything pretty much low. Now what I did here is I put the 3D resolution at 100%. And what you can do on this is have it render at a lower resolution, so you kind of drop the overall look. So essentially this is going to 720p without turning it down to 720p, and that seems to have done better. So let's jump out of the airplane or the bus here. And I am seeing some lagginess going on here too, so let's see what happens when we hit the ground. I haven't played Fortnite in a long time, so I am really rusty. Yeah, so we're seeing about 30 frames per second here. And we're going to have to make note. This is what's getting hard about doing these reviews now, is that these laptops or these games are doing things to the settings that add complexity. So it's not just resolution anymore. Now it's resolution and rendering resolution and just all this crazy stuff. So let's see how we're doing here. Yeah, so Fortnite, we're getting about, on the ground now, we're doing about 40 to 43 or so. And I think you'll see as other players come in, as the CPU gets a little bit hammered here, it'll drop. So yeah, it's interesting. It's about what we experienced with GTA 5, to be honest. But not bad, right? I mean, you could play Fortnite at this frame rate. It's keeping it pretty much around 30. So I'm going to say this is like 30 to 40, mostly high 30s. So yeah, not bad. Yeah, Roman says they do have, there are benchmarks that you can run in the games to kind of have the in-game engine kind of render things. Yeah, I'm of two minds of that, because I like to run the 3D Mark benchmark just so I can get an idea as to what the capabilities are. But what I'm finding is that sometimes it's good just to jump into a game and see what the experience will be like, and kind of offer a, not an exact number, but an expectation number. So, all right, I think we're good on. And Sparky says he loves the YouTube videos. Thank you for kind words there. It's very appreciated. All right, so Fortnite, we'll say 30 to 40. 1080p low, but 3D resolution at 50%. So effectively 720p for the most part here. All right, and we'll let this guy get a freebie. He's got really bad aim. There he goes. All right. I don't think he's gotten me yet. I'm crawling around on the ground here. Is that a new feature? There we go. Okay. So we're good there. So I'm going to leave the match, and we're going to jump to the next one. So I think we'll do Rocket League next. And Project Hope says, it's nice to see how I've grown. He remembers when I was only at 80K subs, he or she. Yeah, I was, it's been pretty good. We're almost to 250,000, which is great. And, what I look for is the, the overall growth of viewership and watch time. That's the most important thing to me. And subscribers are important just from the standpoint of having everyone involved in the production of the videos and these live streams and stuff. But I'm always trying to figure out how do we find more subscribers by being search optimized. Okay, so let's go over to, back to the library here. We'll go to Rocket League now. And you can see I have a lot of games I never play. All right, so let's get Rocket League going real quick here. Oh, wow. So Confirmed SK was subscribed to me when I was doing my Tegra K1. So that was the old NVIDIA tablet. Yeah, that was a while ago. All right, we're just going to wait for Rocket League to be ready to run. You must be doing like the synchronization up with the Steam Cloud or something when I see that. They recently changed their interface around quite a bit, so it's hard to keep up with everything here. And Dennis over on the Amazon chat has been with me for 3 years, found the channel while I was looking for some info on mini PCs. And that's usually what happens is people come across the channel when they're searching, or sometimes YouTube suggests something to them. And it's funny because I'll hear from friends all the time, like, hey, my spouse was looking for something the other night and you popped up. And that's exactly how it works. And that's how we grow. And that's how it works. So Eric is also bringing up my sponsorship disclosures. Yeah, I feel like it's important in this space for people to be upfront about stuff. And the way I look at it is that I can't honestly say to the audience that I don't solicit advertising. You know, I mean, I don't have the luxury of a sales department. So, you know, this will get cleaner in a second here. My camera gets very confused when big white screens come on like this. So I put my hand out there, then it's better. All right, let's get going here. So we're going to go and do a local exhibition match. And I like doing this too because it gives the CPU a little bit of a workout as well. But I don't have the ability to say I have a sales department and I'm totally detached from sponsorships. So, you know, you just got to be upfront with people. And I think it's easier to be honest about it. I mean, who cares? I mean, if you don't, I mean, people care about this stuff, but I mean, if you don't, you know, if you are upfront and honest with people, then they can decide whether or not to believe what you're saying versus getting cute. You know, I've seen channels like, oh, we worked with this brand on this, and you didn't work with them, they paid you. And I think that's kind of the thing that gets me upset is when people try to get cute about this stuff. It's not, you know, just be honest with your viewership. They're not dumb, and they can understand that you have to make a living sometimes. So, so we've got Rocket League running here at. So let me just record this real quick. So this is Rocket League, high settings, 1080p. We're about 18 frames per second, 20 frames per second. So definitely not great. But what we're going to do now, let me just add my 2 video clips to the mix here. We're going to go back. And we're going to reduce the quality. So we're just going to go to high performance. And Feral Sparky says he wasn't subscribed, so thank you for subscribing. Got to hit that subscribe button. I have found sometimes that YouTube doesn't unsubscribe people, but sometimes the app might say you're not subscribed even though you are. I've had that happen to me with a few channels that I've watched. I was like, wait, I know I was subscribed to this channel. Why is it saying I'm not? And it turns out I was, but it just didn't show properly. I think they've had some bugs from time to time with that stuff. Yeah, so Project Hope also brings up a good point here in the YouTube chat about the algorithm. And that's what concerns me about the algorithm and subscribers. And this is part of the frustration is that I don't get a lot of subscriber viewership. And the reason I don't, I'm sorry, I just got to log a clip here real quick. The reason I don't is because I cover a lot of different things. So if I only covered TV boxes, I'd have a lot more subscriber viewership. But because I cover a lot of different things, and because the subscriber base is so diverse as a result of that, I don't think my subscribers get recommended a lot of stuff because of the fact that they may not be interested in, you know, in that particular topic. So that has been a source of frustration because it's hard to have a diverse set of content. And I understand YouTube's perspective, which is that they don't want to put content in front of people if they're not interested in it. But at the same time, when your subscriber base is so interested in so diverse because of the topics covered, you know what I mean? It's really hard to get it to work right. But what I have found is that it's pretty good. It's gotten better at finding the viewers that are interested in, let's say, a retro gaming topic and putting those things in front of them. So it's okay at that. But to the point made by Project Hope, a lot of times, like, you're just gonna, if you don't have an interest in the last 5 videos that I did, you might not see me recommended anymore. So it's tough. So I still find myself popping into the subscription tab, just to get, an idea as to what I'm missing from some of the people that I used to like to watch. All right, so here's the verdict on Rocket League. Low settings, 1080p. We're getting between 60 and 80 frames per second. What you'll see is a frame rate dip as we get closer to the other cars, because the CPU is doing a little more with those, but not bad. So you get a pretty good frame rate here. A little under 60 there, but yeah, I think I'll make a note that you might dip down to the high 50s. Yeah, so we're in the 50 to 60. Yeah, it's kind of all over the place, to be honest, but it looks like minimum 50. All right, so let's add that to the mix here. And 3003. Rocket League, okay. All right, and I think the Amazon homepage is about to end, but the Amazon stream will not. So if you are watching on Amazon, it'll keep going, but we're just not going to pick up any new Amazon viewers on the homepage at the moment. So I'm going to just reselect the laptop here. Okay, so we're good on that, and I think I just want to try out Doom real quick, and then we'll be good on the games. And then after that, we'll do the Linux thing, and low settings. Okay. And then after that, we're going to take it apart. So a few more things to do here. Exit game. Yes. Okay. All right. So this is impressing me. I'm finding this running better than I expected. So what I would like on the subscription tab would be for, and I have suggested this because I think it would be great. What I would like on the subscription tab would be, when you go to the subscription tab, anyone that you have selected with the bell shows up in a special area, because I think that would be the best compromise. Because as I'm just looking through here, because somebody was talking about the bell. The problem with the bell, yeah, so Hikuru-san was bringing up the issue with the bell and the notifications. I think what happens with the notifications is that there's a lot that can go wrong with them. And there's also scheduling that becomes an issue also. And by scheduling, I mean, are you prepared to act on that notification when it comes in? And if you're not, so let's say I upload a video that's at 3 in the afternoon your time, and you're at work and you're busy and you don't have time to watch it. What are you going to do when you get home, right? I mean, unless you jumped into that notification and acted upon it at that time. Now, what I've done is I turned off notifications throughout the day because I was getting too many of them. But I did the digest feature on the app, and that's been better because it delivers that at 7 p.m. every night to me. So I get like a full digest available of all the different things uploaded that I may want to watch. But I'm noticing a couple things with that. First of all, I may not be ready to watch a video at 7. Maybe some nights I'm not going to be ready till 10, right? So there's that issue. And then, just like the problem I'm talking about, some of the creators that I watch, like there's things that they do that I have no interest in watching. I'm just not into that topic. So I'm still sifting through stuff. So I hate to say it, but I think there's some logic to YouTube's recommendation algorithm. But I wish there was a way that subscribers could opt into something that would give them every video anyhow. And I think if they could do that through the subscription tab, with a prioritization of subscription interest, and the prioritization would be a bell, I think that might be a better approach than just relying on notifications. So that's that. Roman wants to see the power brick. Yeah, this power brick is super small. It's like the size of like the MacBook one. It's really tiny. I'll show it to you after we run Doom here, because I have to unplug it to take it apart. Oh, and then he wants to see how it. Yeah, so it is like an all self-contained thing. So it's not like it is going to take up some room, I think. I'll show it to you in a minute. All right, here comes Doom. This, I would doubt that you can charge via USB-C on this. It should let you, just given that this is only like a 60-watt power supply, but I don't think it does that. But we'll check before I do the review. All right. Now I wonder if it remembered my settings from yesterday. Let's see. Let's go into arcade mode real quick. And what's also interesting is Fraps and Doom don't agree on the frame rate either. So which one is real? Okay, so let's hit the space bar to continue. And let's start run. And for me, by the way, the recommendations are important for subscribers to see things, of course, but I'm mindful that the longer term play on search is actually something really useful. And what I mean by that is that I've had videos that totally tanked upon their initial release that ended up doing exceptionally well with search. So let me just switch to Vulkan here real quick. I think Vulkan's the better way to go. And let's turn off decal filtering. I guess it has to be on. Okay. All right, so let's do that first, and let's see what happens after we change to Vulkan. So I can give you two examples right off the top of my head, and there's many more. So I did a video on the HP Sprocket printer, and I knew that would totally tank with my 98% male subscription base. That product is something that I think women are more interested in than men. And so, yeah, the video got uploaded in October, tanked. By Christmas, it was one of my top 10 because search rules, and there wasn't a lot of content on that Sprocket printer. So when there was a search request, YouTube said, his is getting the most watch time, he gets the views. Same with my Chromebook 101, which I talked about a little bit earlier. Same thing there. That Chromebook video did really well, longer term than it did in the short term. And now that one for the last year and a half. So it tanked at the get-go, and then 3 years later, it becomes one of my top videos. I mean, it's just, so I would say if you are, looking at your YouTube performance, to not always be discouraged by your initial viewership. Because if you're focused on SEO, as I am, you're gonna end up doing okay if you're picking the right stuff. Now, where I don't do well in SEO is with like the iPhone reviews and the iPad stuff. So the iPad I'm doing okay with on the inexpensive iPads because that's something a lot of people haven't covered. But like the iPhone 11 Pro, nothing, because everybody reviews the iPhone 11 Pro, and I'm not going to beat Marcus Brownlee on that. And it's a really tough thing to break into. I think I'd upset Doom. It's like locked up here. I wonder if this is like our video issue now playing out, because we are like totally stuck here. Let's do a little shut down Aruni here. All right, so let's go back into Doom. So I did change those settings, so let's wait for Steam to catch up here. So Roman's talking about that cable extender, I think, on the Mac. Yeah, they used to include that extension cable on their power supplies, but they stopped. Now you got to pay extra for it. On the on the chat here, IT Pro says there is the Ryzen black screen. Apparently this happens often. So let me see what's going on with Doom. We may have to reboot real quick here because Steam is not seeing Doom as having stopped running. Yeah, something is still running there. Let's do a quick reboot. See if we can just flush out the memory here. Eric is wondering if I wanted to do more collaborations with other tech channels. I could, you know, again, it's just, you know, I just don't, you know, the key to my growth is the organic growth that I've had. And, you know, I could do some collaborations, but I don't know if those would do well in the long run, given the time and logistics that go into that, especially if it's involving travel, because a lot of people are just all over the place. So I probably want to do more interviews, though. I would like to do some of those and see if we might be able to get some cross collaborations going on with that. But I'm really not concerned about it because my viewership is really strong, even though the subscription viewership is not. But I think that, again, is due to some of the algorithmic stuff going on. So I'm doing about 1.5 million views a month, which is great. And 80% of those views are from people who haven't seen me before. So I'm picking up, you know, several thousand subscribers a month from that, and that's they're not going away. You know, I mean, people aren't unsubscribing. It's just that I'm probably not covering a topic that interests them. So, case in point, we haven't looked at a TV box since I did the NVIDIA Shields back in the summer, whenever they came out. So, if that's your interest area with me, you're just not going to see anything from me. And then, you know, I'm actually probably going to do something on the Xbox One X and how that kind of stacks up with an NVIDIA Shield. And that might do really well because it might get put in front of those people that the algorithm knows have an interest in that topic that are subscribed to me. So we'll see how that goes. That one should do okay. And I have been noticing that my Plex content has been doing pretty good too, better than it has been in the past. So I think there's you know, the algorithm has determined that there's a subset of folks out there that really like that Plex stuff. So we will definitely go there. William Wilkinson says, more Plex videos, please. Yes, I do at least one a month. So we will try to do some more of those. And we had the interview with them out at CES. That was cool. Get the CEO on tape there, so that was fun. IT Pro says this is his first Amazon live stream. Well, welcome to the Amazon world. I actually kind of like their platform. What I really like about the Amazon live stream is that they've got this cool product carousel. And as I'm doing the stream, I can select the product that I'm talking about. And in full disclosure, these are affiliate links, by the way. But so there's that. But also what's cool about it, oof, that's loud. What's cool about it is that it, if you play the recording back, that product carousel is synced up with it. So it works pretty well. I have a feeling that the Vulkan mode is not happy with my Ryzen thing. Michael Kane wants to know if you can add me on Steam. Sure, yeah, go ahead. I have no friends on Steam, so no friends of mine that I know in person are Steam friends. So most of my Steam friends are viewers that pick me up on there. All right, let's get through this part here. And I'm not going to bother with Fraps now that we have the other thing going here. Yeah, so IT Pro brings up in the Amazon chat that Vulkan usually is the preferred method for AMD chipsets. So hopefully this reboot helped. And Amy suggests disabling Frap. Yeah, I definitely disabled it now. So hopefully we'll have better luck here. I'm not expecting much performance here because yesterday we were seeing like 20 at 1080p. All right, there we go. Let's see if it retained any settings. So we'll go to campaign, arcade mode. This is one game I really want to spend some more time playing, but this is like something I have to play on my PC upstairs, so I have to have like the ability to lock myself up in the room there and not have the kids coming in and everything else. You know what I have been playing is the what is it? The Outer Wilds. It's on Game Pass on the Xbox. I may talk about that on the wrap up. That is a neat game. I don't know if anyone's played that yet. All right. This seems like it's running a little better. So let's go into settings here real quick. I'm just going to turn the speakers off. And video, full screen, 1080. Let's go to advanced. Okay, we're in Vulkan. Good. All right. There we go. So let's go jump in real quick and see. Hey, this is not bad, folks. Look at this. 1080p, low settings, Vulkan. Yeah, maybe it is bad. 20 to 30. I mean, it's playable at 1080p. It's dipping a little bit. This is about what we saw last night on the other one. So yeah, 20 to 30 here at 1080p. So this will be something where you probably want to get, you probably want to go down to the 720p. So let's do that real quick. So let me just get the recording here. 1080p, Vulkan, 20 to 30. Mostly in the upper 20s. But I will say the fan noise on this is not offensive. So if you're someone who doesn't like fan noise, the fan is really surprisingly quiet on this. And I would say it's similar to what we saw yesterday too. So fan noise is not bad. All right, so this is so this is going to be Doom, Vulkan 1080p, and then we're going to do 720p real quick and see how that looks. All right. So it's not Outer Worlds, it's Outer Wilds. I think that's what it is. Let me double check the name of the game here. I don't have it on the computer because it's only on the Xbox. Outer Wilds by Mobius Digital. So Outer Wilds. And so the premise of Outer Wilds is that it's the kind of game that I like. It's a space game. And you're like on this little asteroid, and you're these like four-eyed creatures. And you play the game, but it's on a timer. So after 30 minutes, the sun explodes, and then you're caught in this time loop, and you wake up again. But you remember everything that happened during the prior loops, and your ship's computer retains everything that you experienced. And what you're trying to do is unravel the mystery of this ancient alien civilization. And so when you get into your rocket, you're on these little tiny planets, which are not like, they're not huge like No Man's Sky. They're like, you could traverse the whole planet if you want. And there's like 3 or 4 planets, a couple of moons, there's like these other things floating around, and you take your little spaceship and you land on these things, and you have to try to figure out what's going on. So they don't tell you anything. It's like one of these games where you just have to kind of poke around and try to figure stuff out. So I had about 2 hours today because my wife were out of the house. So I was like, I'm going to play this game a little bit and try to figure it out. And I was having a blast with it. I think it's just a really creative game. And the story kind of unravels through the things that you discover. And if you have Game Pass and an Xbox, you have it already. So just grab it and try it out. It's really pretty cool. All right, so here we are, 720p Vulkan. I think we're looking, we're hitting 60. Yeah, so I would say like 40 to 50 though in reality, because it's like 40 here. Like once you start seeing the other characters on screen, you're about 50. So high 40s to 50. It doesn't actually look all that bad either at 720p. So yeah, good stuff. All right, so let me just make some notes on that. And let's do 3005. And Project Hope brings up a good point about following the chat. I've been on some of these like bigger chat. So I have like 122 watching right now on YouTube. So it's much more manageable to be able to see the chats. And what happens is when you're a big channel, you just can't keep up with it. I'm sure you've all been on these streams where things just keep flowing so quickly. It's crazy. All right, so I'm just going to record some notes on my document real quick for this. And then Doom 1080p 20s, so high 20s, low 720p, 50s. So IT Pro's wondering about the graphics. Yeah, these are integrated graphics, and one of the things that has fascinated me about these Ryzen laptops is that for the price point, the integrated graphics are really remarkable. And as we've seen tonight, just going through some of these games, you can run a lot of current stuff, you know, not like you could with a gaming machine, but you can run this stuff. And, you know, if you're on a budget and you want to play some games, you know, $375, you got some games, you know, it's doable. Just a couple little settings tweaks. Maybe you're at 720p more often than not, but as you saw, I mean, this is pretty usable. So it's a good platform, and I've been really impressed with what I've seen out of these. All right, next thing, folks, we are going to go do the Linux test, and then we're going to take it apart. And what's funny about this is I thought for sure that we'd be done with this much faster than last night, but our little video RAM conundrum at the outset messed that up a little bit. All right, so next step here is we're going to plug in my Linux drive, and we're going to boot up some Linux. I'm trying to figure out how to do these reviews. I think here's what I might do, because I was thinking about doing like a shootout video, but it's going to be super long. So maybe we do like a week of just, see how fast it boots too, by the way? Like that's fast. Maybe we do like a week where we just have 3 of these things stacked up against each other. And that might be the way to go, because my wife is taking a trip to with her sisters for like 4 days. So I've got the kids, and it's not just like at night. I've got school pickups and drop-offs, and so my youngest is in preschool. So she goes to school about a half hour after the older one goes, and then I've got to pick her up like 2 hours after that. So what I could do is for that week, just get all 3 of these shot, because I've got a lot of the legwork done already. And maybe we'll do like a week of low-cost Ryzen laptops, and that'll be the week, and I'll have it all queued up and ready to go, so I can kind of take it easy that week. Because I've been trying to figure out how I'm going to get time to shoot stuff, but I could totally shoot it this coming week and get it all done. And I've got a bunch of content ready to go for you all already. That's in the hopper too. So, all right. So I'm going to go and just override my. All right. So here we're plugged in there. USB hard drive is what we want to boot from here. Oops. So we're just going to go and boot up this one. I'm going to move this up. Oops. How do I move that up? Select item, select menu, change values, F5. There we go. So let's put that at the top. Okay, so let's exit saving changes. And let's see what goes on here. And IT Pro and Amazon is saying, you know, anything over 30 frames per second is really more than a console can offer. It is, and I found too that, you know, if you can get 30-ish, it's good. And, you know, I think, again, where the value of these is that if you're really on a tight budget and you want some flexibility and some capability, I think these things are really good for that. We should do like a video one night of like, this could be another upcoming live stream. It's like, let's find all the things we can test on a Ryzen so that we have something to go on. Of course, wants to look at some, that's what I mean, like we could do emulation, we could do video editing. That might be kind of a fun thing to do. RY wants to know, is it possible to watch my live streams using the NVIDIA Shield TV box on Prime Video? No, so this doesn't show up on Prime Video. This is just a Amazon shopping thing. So I don't know. Maybe somebody who's watching on a phone on the Amazon app might see if there's a Chromecast option, but I don't think so. So Drury doesn't think it's going to boot into Linux, and it doesn't seem like it's doing that yet. However, the one we looked at yesterday, pretty much the same chipset, no problem. In fact, the Acer we looked at also did pretty well too. All right, so let me reboot this one real quick. This is not cooperating. What I am going to do here, because sometimes I found that the USB ports can be problematic too, so it may just be it doesn't like that USB-C port. So now we're going to try a different cable on the bigger USB port and see if that might deliver a better result. And if not, we might say Linux doesn't boot on this one. And sometimes it doesn't. You know, I found, we found too with even some of the newer Intel laptops, sometimes like from one brand to the next, they just don't play well with Linux. And it could just be a BIOS thing. So let's see, let's let this kind of sit here for a minute. But yesterday we saw things boot up a lot quicker. And Roman says, try safe graphics mode and then hit E. And okay, so we'll let, I'm going to let it sit here for a second and see if maybe it configures itself, but it's not looking good here. What I found is that if it doesn't work this way, then it doesn't work. Oh, Eric brings up the secure boot. You know, that's a good question because it was on. So let's turn that off and see if that has any impact here. So let me just kill the power. And we'll check that secure boot option. Because the Asus didn't give us any trouble yesterday. So let's go over to security. Secure boot, we're going to disable that. And save changes. Okay, so what I am going to do here is just try it one more time and see if it gives us a better result this time. So hearing that fan kick on. You know, we're booting off the. It's finding the drive and booting. It's just not getting us to the thing there. We'll try the F12 option now and see if that does anything different. But what I found in looking at all these laptops is that when you have this happen, it's just never going to work. So let's try the F12 option here and just do a. We'll exhaust all options here. F12, F12. All right, so we'll go to, and it is a NVMe, because that's one of the options here. What I will do here is I'll try safe graphics and see if that makes any difference. And I'm not sure, Roman, when to hit the E key. Yeah, fan comes on here again, and nothing, nada. Usually we see something by now, even a cursor blinking, but yeah, so Drewy, last night, and I'll play it back for you. So the machine, the Asus machine. All right, there we go.
Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're taking a look today
Pretty
at
loud
the
speakers.
Power A Fusion wired fight pad. This, they say, is a Sega Saturn-inspired gamepad that is designed for fighting.
So that was last night on the other one. And yeah, let's try it one more time. But I think I'm going to probably call it. Because if I can't get it to boot with this, because like I said, this works, either it works or it doesn't work. Yeah, we disabled secure boot. So that's not the secure boot that's the issue here. Let's just see if we can, I'm not going to install it because I don't want to kill the hard drive here, but let's just go and see if installing, if it can get a little further if we do the install. Let's go back to camera 2. So now we selected the install option. Yeah, it could just be, you know, it's a BIOS thing, it just doesn't cooperate. And it's funny too because, like I said, we've had two others powered by this same chipset family that work just fine. This one just doesn't seem to want to work. It happens. All right, so we'll call it quits on the Linux for now. So there's pluses and minuses. Might be fun to have the week. So now it's the fun time, the fun part. So we are now going to take it apart to see what is inside. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to take out my trusty Vastar. I don't know if this is a Vastar ESD, but these are about $5 or $6 on Amazon. And you want to wear these, especially this time of year when you generate a lot of static electricity, because these computers have a lot of stuff in them. And if you shock yourself or shock the computer, it's not going to be good for you or the computer. So we want to be safe there. And then I've got my tool set here. This I bought during the Amazon Prime Day sale a while ago. And what's nice about this is that it's got every type of screwdriver head you can imagine. So it's not the highest quality thing, but it's super inexpensive. I think it's like 12 or 13 bucks, 15 bucks maybe, and you get the whole thing. And they even give you like the little plastic spudgers for separating the components. It looks like this one will be pretty easy to get at. And the other thing that I bought recently is this thing. This is a Delcast magnetic screw holder so that your screws don't disappear. And it's got a grid on it too, so you can have the screws aligned based on where you took them out, because the screws are often different lengths, and sometimes it's like it'll surprise you by how many different lengths there are. So when you take the screws out, you put them on the grid where you know, in the order in which you removed it, so you know where those screws go when you put the thing back together again. So that is a really useful thing. And if you are on Amazon right now, you can see exactly which ones I have. And if you go to the chat, you will see it there. And these screws are coming out super easy on this. They're barely tight. All right, so let's get in there. Now we know that it is an NVMe that it's using as the main hard drive. So the question is, what else can we put inside of it? And what's the memory look like? So remember, on the Asus, we had an NVMe driving it, but we were unable to install the SATA drive because they didn't have a SATA connector inside of it, and the cable that you would need to do that wasn't in the box. But again, they lent me that one, so I don't know what the experience will be for someone that buys it. And let's see here, but this one seems like it's super easy to unscrew. And we'll see how easy it is to get the case separated. That's often the hard part, is that these cases are so like, they have so many little snaps that they use to get them in, which is why you need your little plastic spudger. I think that's what they call it, a spudger. And I have a plastic spudger right here. Okay, so let's get this little, I found too sometimes like right around the back of it is where it's a good place to start, because then you can kind of get in under it there, and then you can kind of just sweep around here. And my spudger's starting to get worn out a little bit, so. All right, we are getting there. I'm being a little less careful with this one because I bought it, so I'm like, I certainly don't want to break it, but I have found, though, that it's really hard to break these things as long as you're not forcing anything. And sometimes there might be another screw that you missed that might be hiding under a sticker. So just be on the lookout, because sometimes those stickers are warranty-proof things, so you need to be a little bit careful. All right, well, folks, look at this. So I am not seeing any socketed RAM. So this could be something underneath this plate here, but I'm not seeing any sockets visible. So maybe we should just, let me just grab a quick piece of footage here. And somebody had asked earlier about the battery capacity. This is 4,050 milliamp hours, 29 watt hours. So Drewy said somebody did on the Lenovo forums get it to boot with Linux with no trackpad or Wi-Fi support. And the question I have for that comment from Drewy there is whether or not they were able to get, was that the, because there's an Intel version of this particular laptop. All right, so I think there's only a couple of screws here on this shield, so let's see. But I don't see how they could have socketed RAM in here. So this may all be soldered on. And Lenovo's been doing a lot more of that soldering on lately, so I'm really nervous about the shield here. I don't want to get too far into this. The good news, though, is that the SATA drive slot does have a SATA port accessible. So it is conceivable that you could very easily add that second hard drive to the mix. But I don't see where the NVMe is either, now that I think about it. So we probably should get the shield off here to see where all that stuff is. What I hope they didn't do is, I hope that they didn't put everything underneath on the other side of the board. That would be really not cool. But I don't think that's the case. All right, so there's probably, oh, I see they have it also. So in addition to the screws, they have some of these little clamp things in there too. So let's get this out here and we'll just take those clamps out a little bit. I probably should just disconnect the battery also, but I'm going to just be careful, I think. All right, there we go. Oh, well, I take it back. I'm glad we did this. So let me just do another clip here. So, like before, we have a single RAM module. So it looks like half the RAM is soldered and the other half is on board. And the RAM here is 4 gigabytes, and it's got 8 total. So it looks like some of the RAM is soldered on, and I'm going to guess that that RAM is probably on the other side of the board because I'm not seeing any RAM chips. The processor's right here, but I'm not seeing any other RAM chips, and there's no way you're going to have another socketed RAM chip underneath. So that is that, and then you've got the NVMe drive right here, so you could upgrade that. Now this is interesting right here. It looks like you've got room for a GPU. So then maybe they have a configuration with a GPU. And then we've got that Qualcomm wireless card there. So there you go. All right, so let's put this thing back together. Okay, so there we go. So Recipe Bob says he's getting buffering. I hope that's, so my stream health is good tonight, so I don't know if it's you or me. If it's you or me, it might be you. Because we've had many years of bad buffering. Yeah, I don't see how they could get a socketed RAM chip on the other side of that motherboard. I'll do some research on it, but there's just no way that would fit. So I think it's soldered on the other side. They certainly know how to pack it in, don't they? All right, so let's put this thing back together before I break something or shock myself. Oops. Okay. Get all of this back in place. These things never go back in the way that you found them. There we go. Okay, so the screws will get it fastened down better. So we'll just grab these screws. The good news is these screws are all the same size, so that helps. All right, that's one. So it's been interesting so far with these Ryzen devices is that one of them does some things the other one doesn't do, and this one does some things that the other one doesn't do. So we get a little better performance for those games out of this one, but we get no Linux. The RAM looks like it's configured the same way, which is that you've got half the RAM soldered on and the other half upgradable. And I'm guessing that's so they can give the option of a dual channel one for a little more money and then have a super budget version. Ew. That is a little more affordable. There we go. Okay. There we go. And, oh, there. Okay. That's back together. Perfect. Okay. So now we're going to put the case back on and put the screws back on. Yeah, Eric, I did not disconnect the battery. That was a conscious and foolish decision. But I found if you're careful enough, you're generally okay with that. And you know, I like to sometimes, admittedly, leave a little potential for drama. So talk about getting subscribers. That's a way to get subscribers, is to have a nice big zap. I will say though, I did zap myself once, or zap the computer, and it didn't do anything. I was surprised that it actually worked afterward. But I'm happy to see though that it's got the SATA connector on board, so you can just slide a drive in there. And this metal thing here, this is a dummy, so you guess you take this whole thing out and just put your drive in. So that's just taking up space just to keep it from maybe keeping the plastic from getting warped or whatever. Cool. All right. So a mixed bag so far with these, right? I mean, it's and I guess that's always the case with budget devices, is that you have a give and a take. But I think there's more get here than not. And I would say if I was out shopping and games are kind of like your priority, this one's probably going to be a little bit better because it seems to be performing better. And it's doing okay here. All right. I think my wife is coming to look for me. I hear the door opening upstairs. Michael Kane's wondering if I watch any game streamers. I don't usually watch the game streamers. I do watch, occasionally we'll watch some people playing a game just to see how to play it. So that the Outer Wilds that I'm playing, that might be a thing I'll be searching out for on YouTube just to get some tips on it. Because kind of like No Man's Sky, it just kind of puts you in the middle of it, and you got to figure out like what you're supposed to do. I'll tell you, if you haven't tried it yet, give it a shot, especially if you like space stuff, because it's one of the more creative things I've tried. And it reminds me of like there was a Star Trek: The Next Generation episode where the ship keeps blowing up, and they retain a little bit of knowledge from each cycle, and that's the gist of this, except the sun is exploding. And what's cool is that these planets are so small and they're orbiting so quickly. It's a very unique, unrealistic thing, but it's like really cool. And you're trying to figure out this ancient civilization, and you're translating their ancient texts. It's neat. So I got to put more time into it. It's funny, I was listening to, speaking of game stuff, when I was on my vacation, I was listening to Giant Bomb had their Game of the Year powwow, and they were just going through all the different games of the year. And this one didn't get the Game of the Year, but I think they spent the most time talking about it, which is what got me interested in the game. Because I like things that are different. Like Doom is a great example. It looks great, right? But we've been there before. The first-person shooters are all unique. So I'm finding the games that I'm gravitating towards and spending time on are ones that are kind of defining a newer, it's kind of a different genre. So if I look at what I played over the last year and put some time in, it was like on the Switch, it was Luigi's Mansion with my daughter. It's a unique game. And granted, they've made that kind of game before, but it's still a little different. It was that one, No Man's Sky, which I keep coming back to. Outer Wilds now. I've spent probably a good 2 or 3 hours on that one. And I got a little bit of, I should have put a towel down or something. So I don't think it's scratched. I can just buff that out. Because the top of the case here is metal. All right, so let's boot it up real quick, make sure it comes back on. Yep, still works. See that? All right. So no smoke, and it still works. Just doesn't run Linux. So that is that. So there you go. So Ducky, I've not heard the USB-C announcement from Lenovo. Can you tell me what that was about? Because I did not hear about that. And that would be a good topic to discuss on the wrap-up on Monday. So it looks like we're back in business here. Perfect. All right. So there you go. And this one I think went longer than last night's. We're in the 2-hour mark here. All right, so let's shut this one down, and we're good to go there. All right, there we go. So I think that's going to do it for tonight, everybody. I'll stick around for another 5 minutes here just to answer some questions. I would actually like to know what was going on with that Lenovo USB thing. Roman says that certain models needed a firmware update. Let's see. Yeah, this one just got one pushed down the other day. So let me check the news here and see if there's anything on that. Nearly all ThinkPads have defective USB-C ports. Oh my goodness. So what to do now? ThinkPad models from, so these are only the ThinkPads. ThinkPad models from 2017 to 2019 reportedly contain defective USB-C ports. First reported by Notebook Check, the problems are widespread enough for Lenovo to post a support page called Critical Intel Thunderbolt Software Updates. Huh. Interesting. I'll have to look into that a little bit more. It looks like they have a software solution for it, though, so maybe there's some voltage control that they have to do on the port. I had a bad USB-C port or Thunderbolt port on my MacBook Pro. So that MacBook, this is what happens when you buy like day one. So that MacBook has been in for service now 3 times. So I've had the keyboard replaced. I had the USB-C or the Thunderbolt ports replaced on it, which I think was a whole motherboard swap. Maybe it was just the ports. Had that done. Something else done with it also. It's been out. Oh, then the first one was when the speakers blew out when it was running Windows. So yeah, that one had some issues. Okay, T-Dub put a link in the Facebook group. Thank you. So I will check that out later tonight. So yeah, so there you go. We got our initial evaluation done with our IdeaPad here. So I think what I'm going to do, probably coming up, we'll have like a week of Ryzen laptop reviews, and I'll get that HP one in, and then we'll just have like all 3, separate videos, and then maybe a video where we kind of sum up the whole thing, and we'll see where it goes. Drew wants to know if I'm going to go with a 16-inch MacBook Pro. I did go look at one, and I will get one when I need it. So right now I have 2 MacBooks. One is a 2012 Retina, and that's the one that Jake is using. So that one's still, I can't believe it still works. I mean, that thing is going to be 8 years old, and we're still editing video on it. So probably what's going to happen is that that one is going to probably get retired when I start doing more 4K stuff, because it can't edit 4K very well. So I'm going to probably at some point upgrade to the 16 and then give Jake my current one, which is almost 4 years old now. But I found with my Macs is that, for what I do, I just use them until they stop working. And generally, once you get one that works, it just kind of works forever. So I have an iMac on my desk over there. So I think if I replace that, I would not get another iMac. I would get a Mac Mini, just because I don't like having everything all integrated, including the display. So that would be kind of what I would do with that. So yeah, that thing, that 2012 MacBook is built like a tank. That thing just doesn't die. The keyboard's messed up on it, so the A, S, and D keys don't work, but everything else is just fine on it. So, but yeah, and then MI 2016. I mean, the keyboards are just bad. I mean, they just had a bad design, and so I had the keyboard replaced, and they when it came back, it had a newer keyboard, but not the newest version of it. So I'm already starting to get stuck keys again because stuff gets in under the stuff and it goes kaput on you there. So Recipe Bob has a Dell T5500 server that he modified with a GPU. Yeah, I think, with PCs, once you get one, they tend to work for a long time. So, that even like the lower end stuff just seems to work better these days. And partly because there's less components too. When you look at what had to be in a laptop 20 years ago. You needed a video chip. Everything had its own chip, and now you've got, much fewer components, which works. Flukum says I should do a best budget Chromebook roundup. Yeah, I should try to get some more Chromebooks in. We're going to get one. HP's got one they're going to let me borrow, and then I'm sure Lenovo is going to have us take a look at their new tablet that we looked at CES. So yeah, I have upstairs. I should try to boot it up. I just found it the other day. I have my Micron laptop, which was a Pentium 233 MMX, not a Pentium 2, just a regular Pentium, that I got in 1998, and I think that thing still works. I should try to boot it up one day just to see if it's. If it wasn't so late, I'd go back out in the back and get it, sitting in the closet somewhere out there. Yeah, and Eric is also saying some of the heat output is less on it too. So, all right, folks, I am going to call it a night, but I will be back. So we're going to be back again tomorrow night in the same spot here. So be ready. I'll be back here again, and we'll go from there. I think the chat will stay active for a little bit after it ends. I'll take one more question here. Walker Video wants to know, what's the best, beefiest laptop in the $1,500 range? I haven't looked at one there. Here's what I would look for is, so when you're out looking for a laptop, what's marketed to you at that price range is like the low end of whatever. And if you go and start digging around a little bit, you will find, like Dell's had these in the past, they have these gaming laptops that are big, heavy, bulky, and ugly, but they've got decent components. And when you start looking, when you take away thin, light, and good battery life, you'll be surprised what you can get. So I would look for some of those, and I'm sure some folks will offer some input there. So what I did, I went the other direction. I wanted thin, light, and powerful, and so I went with the Legion Y740, which has a 2080 Max Q, but it's less than 5 pounds. Look at this. This thing's as powerful as my desktop tower upstairs. Does VR, does everything. It's great. And that normally sells for about $2,000. I got it for around $1,700 after all the rebates and everything. It was a Black Friday deal. But just look hard. And it looks like Monty here is suggesting the Dell G3, G5. Those are the ones I was thinking of. And then Lenovo has a lower end Legion, like the 540. Those are worth looking at too, because you want to get that discrete GPU. And I think in the case of the Dells, you could probably get in there with a discrete GPU for like under $1,000. So we should look at that too. Roman says, when is the best time to buy a laptop? Is it back to school or Black Friday? I think it's both back to school and Black Friday. And I think on the back to school side, usually the flow, like what I've seen with the product flow, is that they're trying to get their newer computers out by summer. So what you'll probably see is if you go and look at the outlets on all these different manufacturers' websites, you might be able to find some good deals in there. Apple has their refurb store, but it's also a clearance store. So you'll find the older models in there too that might actually be new or just gently refurbished or whatever. So I would say that's probably the case. So yeah, so I think we got enough for getting started with this one. So we're going to get that HP in. I won't have it by tomorrow. So tomorrow night's stream, I'll figure out some topic. I'll surprise you. And we'll get that going. I think what I might do, maybe what we'll do is my my Plex video, because I do need to do the Plex video, so why not shoot it tomorrow night? So maybe we'll do that, because we're going to look at, a lot of folks wanted me to look into HEVC transcoding, so that might be a fun thing. And tomorrow night's stream will be at the exact same time, 8 o'clock right here tomorrow night. And then I will probably do another one or two. We're almost into February already, aren't we? Let me check the calendar. Is it February next week? I think it is, isn't it? Oh my goodness. Yeah, so we're going to be on tomorrow night, and then I don't think I have any homepage streams this coming week, but what I'll probably do is one of my mid-afternoon pop-ons. So, just set your notification bell on those, and I'll let you know if I pop in, or you'll get notified with the bell, and we'll go from there. So cool. That's how we're going to do it. And yeah, so tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. So it sounds like everybody wants me to do Plex, so then maybe we'll mess around with that. So we would have then two things to test with Plex. One would be, I got to figure out where my NVIDIA Shield went. Is it still in here? So I've got a million shields. We'll look at Plex transcoding with the Shield and with my NAS box. And the spoiler is that generally you should be okay with it, because even some of the older Intel chips on NAS boxes can decode the H.265 in hardware, and then you're encoding for transcoding into H.264, which they can do. So we'll see how it all works. So Monty says, yeah, next Saturday is February 1st already. My goodness, where'd the month go? Just like disappeared. Yeah, so I got to shoot that Plex video, so may as well do it Sunday night while I'm sitting here. So that'll work. Alrighty, folks, I'm going to call it a night. Thank you all for tuning in. Appreciate everybody's support and viewership. It's been great doing these. Have been a lot of fun to do. And I want to thank everyone who joined us on the Amazon stream as well. So we will be back again tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, and maybe we'll do a Plex topic. So we will see you all then. And yeah, Monty says the CES takes a big chunk out of the month. It certainly did, because there's that whole week of travel, and then I was sick for 4 days, so it was like 2 weeks that totally blew me out of the water there. Okie doke, we're going to head out, and I'll be back tomorrow night. See you in a little bit. Bye-bye.